Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and today I'm going to be talking about Squid Game Season 1, Episode 8. It is called The Front Man. So full spoilers for the episode. As always, it is the penultimate episode, and I was shocked to see the runtime when I started this one. I was not expecting only half an hour, but I actually commend that. I commend that they didn't try and stretch this out to make it feel like a... the idea that it's not a real episode if it's not the same length as the rest of them. I think one of the advantages of the streaming space is that they can just have a shorter episode if that's all that it needs. But that is not to say that this episode is not packed with emotion, with gut-wrenching stuff. I think if I was to sum up what this episode... I mean, the whole show... this episode doesn't work without the whole show before, of course, but what I really felt by the end of this episode was a masterclass in making me want to root for the hero and to hate the villain. Sang-woo has... he was already kind of at villain status, but this episode put him into, I need him to lose. This was exceptionally well done. It was exceptionally well done throughout the show of building up these two characters, of someone who has the good heart, the good heart of gold, who, has his faults, but ultimately he's a good person when push comes to shove. And then this character who's supposed to be the upstanding citizen, whose facade is that he is this smart businessman who went to higher education, who has all these things, but he's the one who's truly villainous. And what he does this episode, makes you hate him. I hate the villain coming out of this episode, and I love the hero, and I am so determined to see Ji-hoon kick Sang-woo's ass. Not necessarily literally, but I mean, I'll take it literally if they give it to me. But so many smart things. The tone as they're coming back from the previous game is super intense. The way that Ji-hoon confronts Sang-woo about what he did in the game, where he pushed the guy off the glass panel, really strong. I thought this conversation and the ways that this show has been doing the entire time is a really good a cumulative effect of everything building up to this one blow off of them finally saying things. Sang-woo finally saying to Ji-hoon what he thinks of him, and saying, "Oh, you're just this loser, you're just this idiot." When Ji-hoon accuses him of doing bad things, saying, "What if it was me on that glass panel? Would you have pushed me?" He just blows up at him. He gets angry in a way that his true colours really come out. And I thought the performance from both here was fantastic. But the performance from, let me just get his name properly, from Lee Jung-jae, who plays Ji-hoon, the look in his face as he, isn't intimidated by what's been said to him. He's just kind of realizing who this guy is. He's aware that he's truly seeing who he is for the first time. And the look in his face of determination when he leans in and says, "Yeah, I am this loser. I am this idiot. I am, leeching off my mother. I'm doing all these things. But you're here too. How it's not my fault that you're in here with us simpletons." And calls him out on his insecurities, calls him out on effectively what he's been trying to kind of get back by winning this game. And actually, there was a great comment. I actually don't think it was on a recent episode. Maybe it was a recent episode. Maybe it was either back in episode 2, someone made a new comment, or someone made a comment in the last episode about something that happened in episode 2. But it was a really nice little cultural thing that someone pointed out to me. That in Korea, it's kind of like tradition or expected or whatever that someone who's wealthy and has resources help those that are less fortunate. So in particular, in relation to when Sang-woo gave Ali money for the bus and gave him something to eat, right? I saw that as a time of the show making me care a little bit about him and showing that he kind of has a heart too. But it was put forth to me that because it's kind of expected and it's kind of part of the character of someone who is wealthy in Korea, that it's actually more Sang-woo trying to keep up that appearance and keep up the charade that he's still this important wealthy man, that he's still got his status, that he's still, he doesn't accept that he's in the same boat as other characters in this show. And I thought that was a really interesting detail to point out. I was glad someone said that to me, because I thought that was an interesting little layer that really fits with his character and everything that he has been trying to do all season. And this like persona that he wants to put forth in the world, but what he actually is. Really good stuff, and I thought this conversation really paid off everything that these characters have been building up to over the last 8 episodes. Really strong. And then you have the guards come in and they're like, we got a gift for everyone, but you've also got a change of clothes. And it's right around here where we see Sabiuk's injury. The glass from all the glass like exploding at the end of the last episode. There's a piece of glass in her stomach. I actually, like, I'm not saying there's been no handheld up until this point, because there absolutely has been. But I really felt a stylistic kind of shift with the handheld camera looking at the glass and the blood on the floor of the bathroom. And then like everything in this scene was pretty much handheld. It would really give you this shaky vibe that she's barely standing upright. She's really struggling to get through the day, but she's trying to not show her weakness. She's trying to look strong. And in many ways, a lot of this show is about people trying to put forth the version of themselves that they want the world to see, but in reality, like, it's not true. And that's another example of it here in this scene. Or not so much this scene, but like this is the evidence for the rest of the scenes where she's in front of other people. But they give them these like basically these tuxies, and they're given a feast. They're given like this big triangle tables put out, and they're given steak. And obviously they've been eating really like simple, weird like food since they got here. Like, not that there's anything weird necessarily about an egg or about corn on the cob, but it's weird to just have an egg or just have corn on the cob, which is the sort of things they've been eating since they got here. They dig into the food and they're ravenous, of course, except Sabiuk. She is struggling to cut the meat. She's struggling to keep any of it down. And Ji-hoon does notice this. He does sort of look over and is a little bit concerned. But notably, and all of this plays out, like the lighting in particular in this episode really stuck out to me. There's a lot of great moments, especially afterwards when the meal's over and they're all left a knife just for shits and giggles, I guess. Maybe they want the final to be 1v1, so they're hoping that one of them will get stabbed. You know, like, I also love that we never cut to the VIPs this episode, because they were obviously watching all this, right? They were seeing all of this, and I am so glad that, again, this show knows how to manage its tone. It knew it wasn't the time to cut back to those assholes making comments on anything that was happening. This was all about being entrenched in the drama and the tension of the moments. But like I said, the lighting, when it cuts back to them afterwards, and like the 3 beds that are left in there are on like opposite walls, like they're just sort of really spread out. Like every time it cuts to a wide shot of Sang-woo, and there's like this one like candle kind of in the middle of the room, like he's so in shadow that he looks genuinely really intimidating. Like he might just try and kill either one of them at any point. Boiling it all down to just these 3 characters, like all of a sudden that same tension we felt like 4 or 5 episodes ago when everyone was trying to kill each other in the middle of the night, all of a sudden it feels fresh again, and it feels different because it's personal. It's 3 people who know each other at this point. So that's really well done. But I mean, the big, you know, the big scene of the episode is where this goes. It's Ji-hoon comes over to Sabiuk and can tell that she's hurt, assures her that he's not there to hurt her, that he's, you know, he's got the knife for protection because he doesn't trust Sang-woo, and he sits down and they start to talk. And he says, stop lying about being hurt. And what was really telling, and what was really like, what really hurt, like the tell sign that something was coming up here, was she asked him the question, what are you going to do with the money when you get out of here? And that was a big sign. That was a big thing that the writers put in, because when was the last time she had this conversation? She had this conversation with the other girl during the marble game, and the reason why the other girl started that conversation is because she kind of knew that one of them was going to be dead by the end of it. And in many ways, she was kind of fishing to sort of confirm her theory that Sabiuk was maybe more... not more deserving, that's not the right word, but more, like, had more reason to get out, and therefore was going to, like, throw the game, right? Like, almost that entire conversation was about her learning enough to feel comfortable with the idea that, no, she should get out instead of me. So, Sabiuk starting this conversation of, what are you going to do when you get out of here, to see, like, to learn more about him, Like, it felt like to me she knew she was about to die. And I felt like she was about to die because she was starting this conversation. And that is so strong. That in terms of writing, that is so strong. So I felt awful during this entire thing. And he talks about, giving his mother an actual store because she's always wanted to do that. Talks about being a father to his daughter, who turns out to be the same age as Sabuk's little brother. And this is like, there's some bonding here. There's some relation between them. And talks about wanting to get her mother out of North Korea. Talks about promising her brother that he'd be out of the orphanage soon. And Ji-hoon says something to the effect of, hey, like, all that money up there, there's more than enough for both of us to do what we want to do. And Sabuk looks at him and says, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal that if only one of us gets out of here, we'll take care of the other's loved ones. And he understandably says, don't say that. Like, we can both get out of here. Not really, him not realizing the severity of her injury right now. And the most heartbreaking thing about this sequence is that she then says, I still need you to swear that you'll do it. I still need you to promise me that you're going to take care of my brother when and if you get out of here. And Ji-hoon gets distracted because he notices that Sang-woo's fallen asleep. So she never gets to hear him say it. She never gets to hear Ji-hoon promise that he'll take care of her family, or her brother at least. And that is so sad because she dies without ever hearing him say it. Now, I feel like I want nothing more in this show at this point than a scene of Ji-hoon picking up her brother at the orphanage. Like, that is what I need in my life after this episode. That is the heartwarming reward for all the misery that these writers have expertly crafted into this story. That is the reward I deem, you bastards. And I say this all with love. I say this all with affection. I'm saying this all because it's affecting. And it's affecting because it's well written, because it's well performed. All these things. But that's not the only good part. Like, I feel like I'm saying that because that was like my biggest takeaway from the scene. But there's like so many other little things to talk about. I mean, not even little things, big things. Like the idea that Ji-hoon is going to go stab Sang-woo in his sleep because he thinks he's just too dangerous now. And Sabuk says, don't. This isn't you. You're a good person. And talks him out of it. And she slumps over and, then the rest of it plays out. But that is such a wonderful moment to me because there's been these signs where she has seen this through him, like, through the show. She's, the moment where he was trying to help the old man and she offered the water. Like, there's these little moments where she's recognized his kind spirit, his, genuine person. And enough that, like, when she is, like, poking for information about him here right before her death, it feels like she already has a hunch. She already has seen enough to maybe think he's a good person, but she's going to learn a bit more. She wants to know more about him before. And I think this is so powerful because this idea that if Ji-hoon just becomes what Sang-woo is and becomes this killer who will go and kill someone when they're helpless, like, then he's lost. Like, he may not lose the game, but he's lost the character arc. He's lost the good of the show. Like, the idea that if you're boiling this all down to a battle of good versus evil, the idea that the system corrupts and that people give up their humanity for financial gain, for power, for societal gain. The idea that no, resisting that and being good and being pure, and by being pure, all I mean is that you will not screw other people over, that you'll be kind, that you'll do the right thing, that you'll help others in need. Those kind of things. The idea that, like, he is tempted, and he's been through this turmoil, and he's been confronted like he has, and he's seen all this horrible shit. Like, no one's blaming him for the temptation. No one's blaming him for thinking this is strategically the best approach. So the idea that Sabuk's pretty much her dying words is that this is not you, you're better than this. It's so good. It's so good. It feels like she's fighting for, she kind of like, with the last thing she chooses to do is to save this guy's soul. I know that's a bit of a grandiose way of putting it, but it's kind of what she does. And that is beautiful. It's heartwarming, it's gut-wrenching, it's all the phrases I could possibly think of to describe a moment where the emotion reaches a tipping point, and it's so built upon everything that's come to up till now. The So this moment of like, not only is he proving himself to, really be good, right? Or at least at the very least, like, she stops him from falling off the cliff, as it were. This is a moment that makes you want to root for him, but more specifically, root for him not to lose himself. Root for him to be the best Ji-hoon he can be and not succumb to the corruption, to the evil that Sang-woo and a lot of these assholes in the VIP room and everything else all are infested with, right? For him to be true to himself. So that's almost the true battle of the show, is for him to come out of it with like his integrity intact, if you will. That's the heart of the show, almost, right? There's a lot of heart in the show. Obviously, there's other characters, Seibuk, the old man. There's a lot of heart. But if we're going to say it's about one specific thing, if the core thing of the show for me at this point is about Ji-hoon not falling down that hole and being true to himself. So this scene makes you want to root for him. That's wonderful. That's great. I'm rooting for the hero. So many things fail to make me do that. I'm rooting for the hero. And then in the same scene, within about the next 60 seconds, it makes me hate the villain so much that it is the perfect concoction of like heat get into the final episode. Ji-hoon runs up to the door, starts banging, begging for medical attention. She's hurt. It lasts a while. The camera stays on him. We don't see behind him what's going on. And the door eventually opens, the lights come on, and it's just the guards with the coffin, the box, the present still, the gift box, and you're like, oh god, she's already dead. And then he turns around, and I'm tempted to call this the single most emotionally affecting shot of the entire show. And I don't necessarily normally think of like movies and shows in those terms, but this show has had so many good moments and so many well played scenes and emotional peaks that eventually I start to think about it that way, where like I can almost like make a top 10 of moments because it's just full of them. But they're not just moments for the sake of moments either. They're moments that are, they're only affecting because the work has been done to make them affecting. But this shot where he turns around and you just see, and it's a wide shot. I love that it's a wide shot. This is so important. It's not a close-up. Same with him sitting in the bed before, the few times we see him. I'm not saying there's never a close-up when he's sitting in the bed. I think it goes in, when he drops the knife, I think we go in for a closer shot there. But this idea that he's at a distance, this idea that this is all at a distance, and we just see Sang-woo standing there over her bed, and the implication is immediately clear that he has just killed her, that he has just finished her off. A character that we have come to care about, a character that we have come to root for, and that has just kind of played a part in the arc of the main character in a very positive way. And everything about this, Ji-hoon's realization, the run in, him crying over her body, trying to grab the knife, and of course then the guards intervene because they need 2 players for the final game, right? Because I think us as an audience want nothing more than for him to just stab the prick, right there and then, just do it, and they're not going to let them. So he's pinned down, and that's the end of the scene. There's a couple of shots later of like her body in the coffin and get into the furnace. But it's so like I have talked almost the length of this episode. By the time I talk about the other plot, I'll have talked probably more than the length of the actual screen time of this episode. But it is so well done. Like, this is like the best use of 25 minutes that I have seen in a TV show in quite some time. Particularly this plot. I mean, the other plot's fine. Like, obviously the other plot's solid, it's good, it's doing some stuff. Arguably, the other plot's got a bit of a trope in it that's maybe a bit more conventional, and therefore it sticks out as not being as special. Whereas there's nothing gimmicky about this. There's no tricks to make it work. It's just that good. It's just that good. The character building of all 3 of them, the arcs of all 3 characters. Because keep in mind, Seibuk's whole thing is that she didn't want help. Her character arc throughout this show has been that she is determined she can do it on her own and she doesn't trust other people. And then that kind of shifted when she ran to the team during all the fighting during the night. So her final act is she has to put trust in someone because she isn't going to make it. She has to put her trust in someone else. Her arc is complete. It's a very sad, tragic arc. It's it's a shame it had to end that way, but all three of these characters' arcs all fit into exactly what happens in this extended sequence, and it's all captured perfectly. I cannot praise this enough. Exceptional storytelling. And I have to review a Star Trek Discovery later this week. I am not looking forward to it. This is so much better than anything else I've watched this year. Pretty much. Obviously, there's other great shows. But in terms of new shows, in terms of like a lot of the things that I've tried this year, this is so far and above everything else. So, the other plot we should mention here is obviously the detective makes it to another island or potentially a weird part of the mainland, whatever it may be, but he does get a bit of a phone signal. He tries to call his superior. The call's kind of broken up though, he doesn't really get through, and he does try to send off his evidence, some of which we can guess, the photographs of the various things, but you have to assume that he's written down or recorded what the VIP said about the game. The front man at one point says, there's not much of a signal out here. I doubt what you were trying to send ever got through. But I think we know at least 2 of the 4 things he tried to send did, because we see him sort of retry 2 of them, but the other 2 they got through. So at least half of what he was sending got through. Whether or not it has any effect will remain to be seen. But we have this big culmination. And when I said that there's a bit of a trope here, in a way, like it's not like. It's almost a little eye-rolly that the front man turns out to be his brother. Like, that's a little bit like TV trope 101. But at the same time, I have been saying since like episode 2 or 3, probably episode 3, that I thought his brother wasn't a contestant, that I thought he worked in, he was one of the guards, that he worked for the game. And that actually turned out to be true. He was just higher up in the rankings than I thought it was. That's a little. It's a little like TV haha twist kind of. It feels a bit more conventional in that sense. I do think that the reveal is fairly well handled. Notably, he doesn't like show his face to the other guard because he takes his mask off, of course, in the scene to show the detective who he is, and he offers the detective his hand and it'll like protect him. He doesn't agree to it though, so he shoots him and the detective falls off a cliff. The reason why I'm phrasing it, I'm not saying he killed him because we don't see a death. I don't like he may be dead, but he gets shot in the shoulder and then falls into the water. By TV rules, I ain't counting that as a death. I think he's still alive. Especially since this scene, like I said, the twist is a bit more conventional for TV. So I expect the also conventional. Like he survived this fall of a TV show as well, which makes it sound like I'm being super critical. But I mean, compared to the other plot, it is like like the other plot in this episode is like exceptional, first class, some of the best TV I've ever seen, and then this plot is just like it's fine. It's doing its thing. It's okay. The twist is whatever. But clearly, we're going to actually see the front man's face from now on because we see him in his room later on, kind of staring in the mirror. It is kind of interesting that the one man who was able to kind of infiltrate and almost like could go toe to toe with the front man was his own brother. I guess that's a little bit poetic, but we'll see kind of where this goes in the future. But I definitely think he didn't kill him and intentionally didn't kill him. He shot him in the shoulder. Which notably was also where he gets shot as well. The detective shot him in the shoulder to prove that he was willing to shoot him. Also, interesting thing here is he brought up that the police issued gun would only have 4 actual rounds in it. Like one has to be empty and one has to be was it a blank? It was something like that. But the idea being that only 4 of the actual 6 bullets would actually be there, which I thought was interesting. I never heard that before. maybe that's a cultural thing. Maybe someone can confirm or deny such a claim in the comments if you happen to know about Korean police conventions. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't really have much more to say about this plot. I'm sure it could lead to some really cool stuff. I'm sure. I'm excited to see what happens from like whatever info he did send out, what that results in. What could possibly, are we going to see him next episode that he survived, or is it going to be something that's saved for season 2? I'm not sure, but I will find out soon, because we're nigh on watching the final episode of Squid Game, and I couldn't be more excited. Exceptional stuff in the plot. So there you go. As episode 8 of Squid Game, somehow I talked about this longer than some of the other episodes, despite the fact that it was half the length, but that's just how goddamn good it was. So let me know in the comments what you think of this episode. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Ding the bell for notifications. And of course, you can get us over in patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and keep the content coming. So thank you very much once again for watching and listening. Always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?